Okay.
Hello, my cat loving friends. We met somebody new today. Rita and I are going to be chatting with Bryan Kortis. He is a community cat manager and he coordinates these activities. He has been very, very active in TNR and rescue, and he has currently been helping with coordinating the cat rescue activities in Maui. So he's a New York attorney now living in Maui, TNR and cats. And we got to find out how that transformation happened. So we'll be right back afterward from our sponsor.
Got to change my
Well,
shirt.
oh, yeah, you did.
We just did one. I wanted to change. But anyway.
Yeah, they won't notice. All right, break. Welcome back to 19 Cats and Counting. I'm your co-host, Linda Hall, here with the gorgeous, the wonderful, my favorite cat-loving human who turned me on to the love of cat behavior, my BFF, Rita Reimers. Yay!
I still remember the day you said, Rita, I have 4 cats. I'm not telling anybody. And I went, 4?
Lightweight, exactly.
But enough about me. I want to talk with Bryan.
Yeah, I'd say Bryan's coordinating a lot more cats than we dreamt of. So let's get on to this one.
You're in a location that's near and dear to my heart. I love Maui. I hope I get to go back there again someday. Tell us what's happening there in Maui.
Well, we call it meowie.
Meowie. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Okay, I'm calling it that from now on.
I was gonna say, we're never gonna call it anything else after that. Okay, continue.
We have to relocate to Meowie.
Yeah. So, well, what's happening right now? I guess everybody's heard of the Maui wildfire.
Yes.
That devastated the town of Lahaina. So, in the weeks afterwards, it's a lot of frustration. The emergency officials wouldn't let animal rescuers into the zone for about 3 weeks. So there weren't a lot of animals coming out, and they sort of concluded it. And you can almost understand this when you are in there and you see it. They didn't think any animals survived because most of it is literally ashes. Mm-hmm. So they finally, after 3 weeks, they let a search and rescue team in. And in 3 days, they trapped like 90 cats.
Wow. I wonder how they survived without food and water, Bryan.
Well, here's the thing. So then the search and rescue team was done, and then they asked us at Neighborhood Cats to take over because they assumed that there were just a few cats left here and there, and we would go in and trap them and pick them off. 500 cats still in there when we went in, and we think what happened is they all ran into the storm drain system when the fire started and survived and then came out afterwards. And how did they survive those 3 weeks? I think a lot of people were sneaking in and leaving food and water. Yes. There was a little bit of predation going on, but they're incredibly resilient animals. And when we got in after 3 weeks, they were not looking great, right?
Yeah.
We immediately set up feeding stations, like 75 of them, all over the burn zone. That got filled pretty much daily with big pans of food and water, and they recovered very quickly. So they're actually the ones that are still in there now are coming out pretty healthy. In fact, the trappers give us a hard time because a lot of them are pretty fat.
Look what you've done! Look what you've done!
They're like, we can't trap them because they're not hungry, and we're like, yeah, but look how happy and healthy they are, And
was it a combination of feral cats and also people's cats whose homes have burned down? What kind of cats did you find? Oh, both of them. Okay.
Well, it's really hard to distinguish because all the cats, whether they're community cats or pet cats on Maui, almost I'd say over 90% of them live outdoors or indoor outdoor. And they're all marked with ear tips. So you can't tell a community cat from a pet cat by looking at them. So it's become very difficult to identify. And our focus at this point, there were so many cats in the burn zone that the local shelter system, the Maui Humane Society, can't handle them all at once without completely crashing the system. So they can only come out as there are places for them to go.
Mhm.
And that requires maintaining them in the meantime. So we've had a priority system where the cats we're trapping now are pets that have been identified by owners, or cats that were sick or injured, or very young kittens. And we've started to switch over to trapping by locations and
Mhm.
clearing out areas. But the last couple of months have been pulling out pets and injured cats. And an awful lot of these cats have owners, and we've had a lot of very happy reunions, as you can imagine.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that, if you've been able to reunify pets and their owners.
Yeah, the one very, very touching story that happened this week was that this poor woman, her house burned to the ground, and she didn't know if her little cat named Gray had survived. But every night that she was allowed in, she went to her house and she put a little cat bed in the front and some treats. And she did this every single night, not knowing if her cat was alive. And then we have a pretty sophisticated camera system, and we caught her cat on camera. And so she all of a sudden she realized, wow, my baby is still here. Her cat has a collar with a couple of bells on it, so we nicknamed her Tinkerbell, because we could always the trappers could always tell when she was in the area, because she'd start, right. But she was very smart, and she obviously she had found a couple of places to go eat, and she had a lot of cat friends, and they lived near a park, and she was not interested in us catching her. And it took the trappers several nights and all sorts of tricks before they finally brought her in.
I just can't. I'm getting emotional even listening to this. I had an escape a little over a year ago. And of all the cats to go, it's my FIV boy that I worry about the most. He was gone about 3 weeks. I cannot put words to the emotions that I felt. I was convinced he was dead.
She really was.
I really was. Rita knows.
Oh,
Rita was
sure.
my sounding board at that time. I was convinced he was dead. But even worse than being convinced he was dead was the fear that he was out there being harmed. He's such a gentle, darling soul. I was in more pain. I think I decided he was dead just to save myself the turmoil of wondering what was happening to him.
For closure. Yeah.
Oh, the feeling among my entire family when he was found. I have a picture of my son, who was like almost 18 at the time, and he's manly. He's like, so I just, when you said 3 weeks, okay, not only have I gone through what I went through with Kismet, but if I've lost my home and my belongings and all my pictures, and I mean, it is the most tumultuous thing I can imagine. And where's my child?
Right.
It's an amazing thing. Yeah. And then to find that some important piece of your life was not lost and is
One
back.
of the most important. Yes.
Yeah. I noticed one of your cats
compelling.
has joined us, Bryan.
Yes. Behind you.
That's Walter.
Hi, Walter. I love
we have a lot of Siamese mix on the streets here, and he's one of them. So we got him as a little kitten. And
so cute.
Yeah, he's another foster failure, right? He's the
Guilty.
sweetest, happiest cat. Does not want you to pick him up. It's got to be on his terms.
Sure.
So,
yes.
That makes sense.
Like,
he was out on the street. He knows the boogeyman's a real thing and he could get attacked. And if you're picking him up, he's vulnerable. He cannot fight or flight. So he's not having it until he's in the mood and has decided it's safe to cuddle. We see that a lot.
Exactly.
But from a behavioral standpoint,
shelter reject.
Yes.
What amazes me is that these cats have formed an alliance, because out in nature, a lot of time cats don't do that. They're trying to chase each other off to, make sure they have their own resources. But it sounds like you said that they actually kind of came together as a group of kitties, as a big clouder.
Yeah, I mean, that's our common experience, having done trap neuter return for 20 years now, is most street cats form very tight social groups,
Mhm.
even if they're not related, by birth.
Right.
But if they have a common food source and a common territory, they develop very strong bonds. And we typically don't find community cats living by themselves. We typically find them in groups.
Mhm.
And so like in the burn zone, by setting up these feeding stations, we force them to congregate and form a clouder. And then that makes trapping, then we can monitor them more easily and trap them more
Right.
easily. But well, you guys must know with your own households, right?
Yeah.
They form friendships and bonds.
They do.
They
And
do.
bonds,
They're
definitely.
very social.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Yes.
the idea of a cat as a loner is really a myth. They're actually extremely social.
Oh yeah, that is such a myth, and it's so wrong.
Do you think
Cats,
they
they
get
need a social
that?
structure.
Do you think they got that because the male cats go out and hunt by themselves? So they see this one cat and they're like, oh, cats are solitary. They're not seeing what's going on in their actual territory, right? In that bush behind, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you get a female cat, an older female cat who's used to living alone, right, you would know as a behavioralist, right? That's the hardest kind of cat to integrate with other ones.
Yes, indeed.
So sometimes you leave them alone.
Yeah.
But most cats, in my experience, enjoy the company of other
do.
felines.
Definitely.
Once they get over the initial, deciding who's alpha and who's the boss and where your pecking order is. But it's just amazing that the domesticated, if you can call them domesticated cat, the pet cats and the feral cats form such tight alliances. That's really amazing.
Yes. Yes.
Oh yeah. In my experience, like if you want to bring in a cat into your household who is going to bond with the other cats, you're better off with a feral cat. That they're more, they bond faster. They're used to the groups and the bonds.
That is true.
That makes sense.
I have a
really
feral
thought of
and a
that.
semi-feral, and you're exactly right. They did both bond with the other cats very quickly.
There was a lady who had a rescue in North Carolina, and she set out to TNR this huge colony.
Rescue.
And she caught a few of them. And as she approached this one's cage, he's like purring and rubbing on it. And she's like, dude, you're not feral. But he was hanging around with the ferals to find that community and get those resources, right? And he was bonded to a truly feral girl. We adopted her because I don't break up bonded pairs. But my husband months later said, I don't understand the purpose of this cat. We feed the cat, we scoop up after the cat. We can't touch the cat. Don't look at the cat. Don't disturb the cat. If cat's on the bed, don't get on the bed. Why is this cat here? And I said, that's Kismet's cat, right? Like it has nothing to do with us.
Exactly.
And they were always cuddled up together on a cat. Any place was built for one suddenly became two. They were like the yin and yang of cats.
Well,
they were in love.
Yeah, your husband was asking the wrong question. It should have been, what is my purpose?
Yeah.
That is a true story.
You are 100%
Your purpose is to
right.
provide food.
You are 100% right. He's getting there. When I first mentioned cats, he said, I don't like cats. He grew up on a farm, had this idea of barn cat kind of thing. And I don't remember what he said. He said something to me yesterday. Oh, he asked me, he saw some cinnamon broom kind of things or pine cones. And he said, hey, I was looking at these. Is that safe to bring in for the cats? And I was like, wow. Usually I'm correcting him after the fact. Now he's thinking like a cat.
Oh,
and I'm kind of like, yep. Oh, what we have started. And he's always snuggling with the cat. But if you catch him at it and say, wait, I thought you were a cat hater, he'll tell you it's a dog.
It's not a cat, it's a dog.
We have 11 dogs.
So, Bryan, how many cats do you think are still out there that need to be trapped and identified, spayed, neutered, getting returned to their owners, etc.?
We estimate about 250. That. Not
so you guys have
count,
made quite a dent then.
Yeah, we're I would estimate at least a third. Well, we've brought out about 185, and so about 250 to 300 left is our based on camera. We do a lot of camera studies, so we're a little more than a third and about getting close to halfway there.
How do you manage? So, you know, Rita and I keep taking, like, neither Rita nor I had any intention of having 17, 11 cats, but they keep landing on our doorstep, or this cat's going to get euthanized if we don't come get it. Quick, let me grab my keys. It's always something. And no matter how many cats we've taken in, we struggle to focus on how many we've helped. We're still seeing the cats we haven't helped. And we're like, when you said that about the cats, I'm like,
It's hard.
send me the cats. Brian, I'll take the cat. Like, you know, my husband will leave me. But yeah, you know, I know I don't want more cats, but yeah, bring me the cats because we got to help. It's very hard to ever feel accomplished in what we do as far as rescue goes. I can't imagine how I go home, because I will not focus on the fact that I just saved 185 cats. I'll focus on how many are left in there, and I'll want to stay up all night and get them, and I'll kill
And that's a
myself.
trap all rescuers face.
Well, that is exactly my thought. Like, everyone in rescue and TNR and anything cat welfare related needs the answer on how you manage this. So we're waiting.
Well, I think there's a real distinction between people who are focused on TNR and people who are focused on rescue, even though there's often a lot of overlap.
Mhm.
So with TNR, you're looking at more the overall system and the environment, and so you're trying to bring down the cat population. You're trying to improve things for future generations, and you know, do the best you can for the cats that are there now, but prevent future cats from having to go through the same experience. And so that's the whole focus is spay and neuter.
Yeah.
Whereas rescuers tend to focus on individual animals and what is the best possible, and devote all their resources to that one cat. And that's real important too. It's kind of like, the analogy I use is it's real important to have you know, firefighters, you know, people who are out there and getting the hose
Yes.
and putting out the fire. But it's just as important to have people who build fire stations. So if everybody was out there putting out fires, that wouldn't work.
Yeah,
So if
right.
everybody was a rescuer and nobody was thinking about, well, maybe I
True.
shouldn't trap those kittens right now because it will delay too long getting the mom and the dad fixed. Or maybe I have to think about not helping the first cat that crosses my path, but
Mhm.
which group of cats can I help that will have the greatest impact over time? So for example, when we go into a new community, or when we, you know, consult on that, we ask them, does the mayor have a colony of cats, you know, behind his house or a clouder? And if the answer is yes, then that's where you go first.
Yeah. That makes
That's going to have the
sense.
greatest impact. So it's TNR tends to be people who are more not more capable of being strategic, but who in their practices have to be more strategic. So I have always felt like the goal was not to make things perfect, but just to make them better.
Oh my
And
gosh. Write that down. Tattoo it on my
No.
forehead. Thank you.
Well,
Tattoo. Seriously.
well, it's served me well, you know, because you see a lot of you deal with thousands of street cats. You see a lot of really bad stuff.
Yeah.
But as long as you see that it's improving, you know, for me, that's the fuel that's always kept me going.
Yeah.
So are we going to save every cat in the burn zone? Probably not, but we're going to save most of them, and as close to all of them as we can.
Thank God you've got such a
That's the
good handle
approach.
on that, because you couldn't do it otherwise, right?
No,
I
you
had a
couldn't. Well,
cat.
but that's why we have rescuers, because it's
Well,
important to have those
yes.
people
Well,
who
yeah,
go
it takes
all out
both.
for,
It takes
yeah,
both ends
exactly.
of the
It's-
spectrum.
It's the eating
Exactly.
alive. You know, a kitten, a black kitten appeared in my backyard a summer ago, a little over a year ago. I tried to ignore her and pretend I didn't see
It's
her,
hard.
but then I kept thinking she's going to make babies and she's going to bring her in. So yeah, 11 instead of 10. And I felt good about that.
See, I
And a
would have fixed
couple
her and
weeks
left her
later, I
outside.
don't remember where I was, and my daughter sends me a picture of a cat that looks almost identical to her with her babies. And I'm guessing it's her sister. And then I felt like a failure because I didn't fix her too. And she's out populating the earth. And Rita said, Linda, stop, because we go to each other with these things.
We do.
She said one cat over X number of years with its
8
population,
years.
their population, their population, their population, 2 million cats.
That's right.
You stopped 2 million cats. But I struggled with the feeling that, yes, but I didn't stop that other 2 million. So,
But the thing is, though, Linda,
But
we're
you're
in
still-
the
you're
rescue
still working.
end,
Yeah.
and you all. She lives in
Yes.
a small town, so do I. They didn't have TNR at that moment.
Yeah.
Your community has since gotten a TNR group, which is
Yes.
awesome, and they're
Yes.
the ones that are going to concentrate on preventing the future generations from happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah,
You're right. We've all got
really
our
need both.
space working together. That is why we chose the name Cat Behavior Alliance.
Alliance.
Because while cat behaviorist is our thing, anything that affects a cat affects behavior. Hey, honey, those ferals in your yard affect your cat's behavior. If
Yes,
he's spraying on the
ma'am.
walls, let me tell you why that's happening. So every aspect is our thing, but we have to focus, I guess, on staying in our lane and doing what we can do, right?
Sadly,
I'm sorry.
I was just saying we have to take a little break for our sponsor.
Okay, hold that thought.
But we'll be right back. We'll continue Brian's thought. And I also want to ask, how did you get involved with cats from being a lawyer to being a TNR advocate? That's interesting. We'll be right back.
Sure.
And we're back with 19 Cats and Counting, my BFF, Ride or Die Linda Hall, and Bryan Kortis. Am I saying your name right?
Well, I like the way that sounds.
I know. It sounds very exotic, doesn't it? Kortis.
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 I'll take
You're
it.
with neighborhoodcats.org. Your wife is the
She's the
founder.
executive director.
Okay. And you are the what is
National
your role?
programs.
National
Okay.
programs. And you were a co-founder of the whole shebang to start, correct?
That is correct.
I love that you guys have made it a couples affair. That's just amazing. How did you get started on this route from a Manhattan lawyer to a Maui rescue TNR person?
Yes, quite the journey. Well, it started on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, where I lived at the time, and I wasn't really involved in animal welfare. I had a couple of friends, who were rescuers, and would occasionally help them out in my role as an attorney. But that was pretty much it. So one afternoon, I was walking by an empty lot near where I live. It was just a grassy lot, and I saw a kitten playing in the grass, and I immediately thought, well, I'll just pass this little guy on to my rescue friends, and feel very good about myself and job well done. And then I saw two more. We're talking like 8-week-old kittens, and I thought, all right, this is still manageable. I can still pass this on. And then I saw two more, and I had this sinking feeling like my life was forever changed.
And it was.
And it was. I started poking around the neighborhood and there were 30 feral cats that were living in this courtyard.
Wow.
Who had all sprung up over the last 2 years because a couple of cats showed up, somebody started feeding them, didn't fix them. 2 years later, 30 cats. So
that's what happens.
I did what I think like any really good citizen would do in a situation like that, which is I tried to find somebody else who would take care of the problem for me. So I called the shelters, and I called rescue groups, and I found out this situation that I encountered was repeated literally thousands of times throughout New York City, and there were no resources available.
Wow.
So do you have Anitra Fraser? She wrote the book.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
So she was a neighbor, and she suggested trap, neuter, return, and I thought that's a ridiculous idea. You take these cats. Yeah, gonna put them back in an urban environment. How could you do anything more cruel than that, right?
I know, but then you figure out feral cats don't really want to be in our house.
Well, I given the lack of any alternatives, we decided to try it to see how, and it was very successful. We were able to find placement for about 20 of the kittens, which I would never do again, but I didn't know any better. So, we socialized the 4-month-olds and we found them homes. And so, never do that again. And then we spayed, neutered, and returned the adults. and all the problems in the neighborhood went away overnight, and they stopped obviously having more kittens. And then
Right. Eventually the
block,
clutter dies out and there's no
Yeah.
more problem.
yeah, 8 years later, they were gone. The block over heard about what we did, and they wanted it. There was literally a feral colony in every inner block. So
I
we just
bet.
went throughout. We went throughout the Upper West Side, fixing colonies of cats, because that's where everybody lived. All the founders of the organization, and a couple of years later, my co-founders were much more ambitious than I was. They wanted to go citywide, and they thought this was a great solution. And I just wanted to get back to work. But
You're like, I gotta be in court, dude. Just let me go, right?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I did my bit, but they were like, wow, this could be such a great thing. We went to animal control and said, hey, would you support, trap, neuter, return? Because it was kind of unknown at the time. So they went into their intake data and compared the zip codes where we'd been working on the West Side to the rest of the city, and they had a drop of about close to 75% intake
Wow.
from the areas where we were going.
That's huge.
And then they said,
Yeah.
yes, please continue.
Yes, they said, please continue. How can we help you? And it just kind of, then we started working with the ASPCA that's headquartered in New York City, and the local groups. And we did this 300 cat project on Rikers Island, which is a massive jail that's there. And that took, the press loved that, right? Because the cats were free and the people were in cages. So, that got a lot of,
I've read about those programs.
Yeah.
That's
They
awesome.
had, and it was in Cat Fancy.
Yeah.
And they had little bars on the pages,
Aww.
Yes.
And so, well, look, one thing led to, then we started teaching workshops, because we couldn't TNR every cat in New York City ourselves. And then we wrote books, and then we started working with trap manufacturers. And it's just a program that has continued to grow, to this day. My wife and I decided we wanted to change from Manhattan. So Maui was, started with the same two letters and was as far away as possible. So
you can't call me down in New York.
Exactly.
I understand that.
We just thought this would be kind of a fun place to live, and they definitely needed us. At the time, all the shelters in Hawaii had like 80% euthanasia rates for cats.
Oh my goodness.
And the conservation community here is extremely strong. So they were airing commercials against cats, if you can believe it. And all this stuff did was suppress the cat, was keep the cat overpopulation going really strong, right?
Yeah.
So we introduced spay neuter. At the time, I worked with PetSmart Charities, and I was able to arrange funding so they could open a high volume clinic on Maui.
Nice.
And fast forward 5-6 years, and all the shelters have 80% live release rates.
Nice.
For cats.
You completely flipped that.
Can't take all the credit. We were
okay.
One factor.
Group, yes, definitely.
All this is team effort, but it takes somebody to organize and spearhead and be the voice for. Yes. And that's what you and your wife have done.
Yes.
Well, we like to think that we at least played a major role in it.
I would say you did.
It's sort of like you need the local population to be ready, and to have people who are, you're just unleashing energy. You're not really creating it yourself. So when we first got here, with all the anti-cat stuff that was literally on TV, we thought the first year is just going to be talking to people, right? And trying to explain to them about TNR and why it's a good thing.
Education.
And that you're not going to solve your wildlife issues or, endangered species issues if you don't fix these cats.
That's true.
To our surprise, open arms from day one. People were so happy when we said, hey, we'll get your cats fixed. It won't cost you anything. We'll do all the work for you. They were like,
they just wanted a solution. They didn't necessarily want the cats to die. They just needed a solution to the problem.
Exactly.
When I said that, I said, if you love cats, you should care about this, because these cats aren't getting vet care and da 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 da. if you hate cats, you should care about this because you don't
Right.
want them in your yard. So one way or
Exactly.
another, TNR is the way to go for everybody. Like there's just no argument here, right?
Sure.
Yeah, you love them or hate them. You
This
want
is
them
the
spayed
answer.
and neutered.
Yes,
I
exactly.
visited someplace when I was in Maui, and this was in 2006, so I don't remember where it was. But there was this place where everybody went, all the tourists went to visit and feed a bunch of cats that they were like down.
Not like the lanai.
You're looking
or
down
something,
over.
I
It
don't
wasn't
remember.
the sanctuary.
Oh, it wasn't that.
So,
Okay.
They were
Probably
all
cannot-
wild
probably the
cats,
beach.
and all the visitors were there
Yeah.
feeding them, but they were all TNR'd. So it must have been after you came along.
Well, there was TNR activity before.
Just
before
not to the degree, right?
Right, exactly. It was
Unorganized, yeah.
well, yeah, it was local grassroots groups who would fly a vet in from the mainland and do a couple of clinics. So they were fixing about maybe 1,500 to 2,000 cats a year.
Mhm.
But the local humane society had a 4-month waiting list just for pet cats
Wow.
to get fixed. So the total capacity on the island was no more than maybe 3,000 at the most, and so that's triple now.
So do you help other
Wow.
communities get into TNR and replicate the programs that you started?
Oh yeah, that's a big part of what we do.
Good.
Is
Good.
And
We need you here in Lancaster, South Carolina, because they don't.
Yeah,
Same.
here in my little town, there was argument about it, and then the local rescue group would team up to wipe out the unneutered and unspayed cats in this trailer park. But 2 years later, it's back because nobody's consistent with it, right? So
Not just
Yeah.
that,
lady-
people drop off, and trailer parks are a prime location where people drop
oh
the cats.
yes.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
lady from
those-
the Humane Society went to the city council and said, okay, here's what we want to do. And it was actually geniusly, stupidly simple. You got some ferals in your neighborhood, you call us. We drop the traps off and set them up. You call us when something catches. We'll come pick them back up. We'll get them neutered. We'll drop them back off in your backyard. Done.
Couldn't be easier, right?
Yeah,
But you need a
and
group
that-
to spearhead that and to, get the
And the
traps and
vets and yeah.
the volunteers
you
to
need
do
funding
all
and
this.
yeah, it's an organized, definitely requires organization and funding, and
Mhm.
the more organized and the more funding, the faster that
Yes.
things get solved.
Yes.
But it is well, I mean, again, it's that not everywhere's doing it, not everything is perfect yet, but compared to when we started neighborhood cats, the practice of trap, neuter, return is 1,000 times
Oh, yeah.
more prevalent. It's become one of the things that we identified early on was, so when trap, neuter, return was introduced to this country, it was by Alley Cat Allies, which is a national community cat group as well.
Yes.
And but they got a lot of they got attacked a lot when they first
Oh,
introduced.
yeah.
They
A lot of people didn't even know what you'd say TNR, and they were like, what's that?
they were accused of committing abandonment. So the shelter system thought it was inhumane. The conservationists, hated it. Animal control thought there shouldn't be stray cats on the streets.
my
The public health
goodness.
people thought the cats were all going to give everybody rabies. So the development of trap, neuter, return in this country was very grassroots and done
Mhm.
by kind of somewhat militant individuals who were like, I don't care what whether you like it or not, I'm going to do it
Doing
because
it.
I know it's the right thing.
Mhm.
So that served the movement well in the beginning. But when we came along, what we recognized was you'll only get so far with that approach. It has to become mainstream. It has to become the normal way of managing these
Yeah.
cats. So we started working with the ASPCA and with the Humane Society of the United States to change their policies and their programs and their educational materials. And I think we were successful in mainstreaming TNR so
Oh,
that,
definitely. Yeah.
yeah, so now in most communities, it's normal.
Yes.
But
Most
but
everyone knows if you say TNR what that means, right? Unless
Right.
they're really far
Yeah,
removed from that
15 years
community.
ago, when we were
Yeah,
talking about this,
what?
people were like, and then we would invariably get the response, well, that's cruel. Why not just put them in homes? Well, sure, there's not
Right.
enough homes. That's why there's not.
Yeah.
And those feral cats don't want to be in our homes.
They're freaking out. They are literally trapped wild animals. They're panicked. They think they're in a structure. Like if we got nabbed by a lion and taken back to his den. That has got to be what they're.
Well, they don't understand the concept of walls. I remember the first feral kitten I took in, and she just was like, she was trying to figure out how to run out the window and how to climb up the walls. It was awful. Poor baby.
Yeah.
It terrorized her more than releasing would have done.
Well, you wouldn't try to bring the squirrels into your house, right?
Right. Well, some people do, but that's a whole nother topic.
That's true.
That sounds like a whole
was
nother
good-
show.
Yes.
Actually.
Yes.
Yeah, it's about respecting the nature of that individual, and feral is not a black or white. It's a behavioral condition.
Yes.
It's a socialization level. So some cats are more feral than it's really kind of a spectrum, and on one end you've got your lap cat, right, who just wants to cuddle with you all day. On the other end you've got really a wild animal who you'll only see at 3 a.m, and then you have everything in between. And sometimes in the course of a cat's life they'll be feral at one point and friendly at another, and
exactly.
We've seen that.
You have to be open
in our
to
homes.
a label is a snapshot, whether they're what their socialization level is a snapshot at that time.
Yes.
How can people help your group, Bryan? How can they support TNR and your organization, Neighborhood Cats, specifically?
Well, donations, we're a nonprofit, so everything that we do is funded.
Neighborhoodcats.org, right?
Yep. So right now we're running a wildfire relief fund, because we're Susan Richmond, my wife, and I are pretty much, we've been doing nothing but work in the burn zone for 2 months straight. So that kind of takes away from fundraising and things like that. So whatever support we can get that way is great.
Yeah.
Also, Maui Humane Society, if people want to help out with the wildfire effort, there's an awful lot of very friendly cats who could use a home.
Yes.
And they have a program where they will pay for transportation to adopters on the mainland.
Nice.
And arrange all the paperwork and the transport. So
that's amazing.
and then they have an Amazon wish list, where people can buy food for what we drag up there and put out every day.
Yes.
So, you can help neighborhood cats directly, but also you can go to MauiHumaneSociety.org, and a lot of ways to help there too.
Yeah.
I'll definitely include those links in the write-up
thank you.
once this is posted.
Yes.
People will be able to get to those links.
It's a really good point. Like, I can't go. I mean, my heart is breaking for these cats that are in this burn zone right now. Okay. I'm going to be thinking about this for days, and I can't fix that. But if I had room in my home to take in one cat from the shelter, that's one cat from the burn zone that can go into the shelter.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not really a capacity issue. It's not like the issue is, the shelter can't hold enough. I mean, they can't, but the real issue is placement.
Yes.
It's the flow out.
Yes.
Mhm.
And as cats flow out, we can bring more in. So anything in every cat, every time we can bring one more out, that's a win.
Yeah, I'm sure some of those pets lost their owners too, because a lot of people died in those fires.
There's a lot. Yeah. Well,
or lost their homes or have nowhere to go back to.
Yeah, I mean, sadly, about 100. I think I'm not sure what the count is. It's like 99 people died.
It's too many.
That's a huge loss.
Mhm.
But you do get a lot of people who are living in, thousands of people living in hotels now.
Yeah.
And Maui was a tough place for affordable housing to begin with.
Yeah.
And it's an even tougher place for housing that allows pets. So, a lot of owners can't take their cats back right now. There are foster programs, but that's a short-term solution. So some of them have had to surrender their animals, and they need a new home. Yeah.
My heart breaks.
It is heartbreaking.
Oh, I want to keep talking to you. I know we're gone
but we're out of time. We could just talk to you forever, Bryan.
Oh, thank you. Likewise, here.
We'd
enjoy
love
the
to have you.
conversation.
We'd love to have you back on anytime.
Oh, sure. I would love to.
So those links again, it was neighborhoodcats.org, Maui
Humane Society.
MauiHumaneSociety.org, and I will put them in the write-up when we post the show. Any last thoughts or words for us, Bryan?
Well, just thanks so much for what you're doing, and
Well, right back
elevating
at
the
you.
status of cats and covering all the different topics and
Uh,
just your openness and knowledge and
uh,
thanks for having me.
Well, we appreciate the education.
sure.
We're schooled in behavior, not all the other things.
That's
So we
right.
appreciate those of you who are doing A, the things that we cannot do in the places we cannot do, and B, we appreciate you for educating us on it so that we can be more effective.
That's true. I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. And Linda, I'm always grateful to have you by my side because you're so gifted when it comes to speaking, and that's
I
not
was
my
scared.
forte.
You are just, and I'm like, uh-oh. Okay, that was a good answer.
We'll take that one offline. No, I'm just kidding. We're BFFs, so we kid a lot. And your cat's now telling me what he thinks of me.
Yeah, he's showing his butt. Thank you, Deadpool.
Mark Winter, our awesome producer who gave us the spot on Pet Life Radio. We are forever grateful. And just remember, everyone, that every day is Catterday. We'll see you next time.